Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. I'm Zemo, the dad in DPS, and today's video is a beginner's guide to Fallout 76. Now this is a long one, and as a result I've left a load of timestamps that you'll be able to track in the bar down below with the YouTube's timestamp function. So definitely use that if you want to skip certain sections and get to certain things. And what we cover in today's video is generally how to start off the best way, how to level up quickly in the game, and what basic things do, such as legendary perks or mutations, legendary weapons, that kind of thing. We don't go into too much detail about specifics because that can be essentially a video in itself, and this video is already awfully long because of the amount of different things we're covering. So if there is something specific you'd like us to cover, definitely leave a comment down below. But with that, like, comment, subscribe, and let's get on with the video. Now, your first choice out of the vault is whether you want to be a battle-ready dweller or a fresh dweller. Now, neither choice is the wrong answer. The reality is, both of these choices will give you a start to the game and you'll be able to enjoy it regardless. Battle Ready Dweller does give you a head start, so this will allow you to get into certain events quicker and just play the game pretty much as intended right off the bat. Whereas Fresh Dweller will give you the experience that everybody had when they originally started playing the game. So again, there's no wrong answer, there's just what you want to choose. Now first off, let's talk about Battle Ready Dweller. If you go into this option, you have 5 different builds: Commando, Slugger, Gunslinger, Shotguns, and Specialist. Now each of these has a different weapon type with the exception of Vats, which kinda encompasses all of them, melee to a lesser extent with that. But essentially this is the all-rounder build. This is the kinda very good early game build, but late game terrible. Gunslinger is a very decent early game build, but later on it's kinda middle of the road. And then Melee and Commando are your kind of top tier, very powerful builds at the end game, with the other one being the heavy weapons, which doesn't show up here. Now, first off, with the Commando one, we are going to take a look at the perks and show you what it has in there. So, Commando has 3 special in Strength, 7 in Perception, 1 in Endurance, 4 in Charisma, 3 in Intelligence, 4 in Agility, and 4 in Luck. Now, the perks that you've got on here are Travelling Pharmacy, which reduces the weight of chems by 90%, which is an end-game perk that has a lot of use and utility. It's an absolutely great perk, and definitely one that you want to start with. Then we have Ground Pounder, which makes your rifles reload 30% faster and gives you better hip-fire accuracy. Next we have Concentrated Fire, which allows you to target specific limbs and Vats and increases your accuracy per shot. And then Commando, which gives you a 20% damage buff. All of these perks are really good. Ground Pounder is a very meta perk for Commando builds. Concentrated Fire, if you're wanting to use Vats, is a necessary must for those headshots. And Commando, just great damage. Then we have Rejuvenated, which isn't the best perk, but it gives you increased benefits from being fully fed or fully hydrated, which gives you certain stats and whatnot. Not that important of a perk, but definitely something that you could use. Then we have level 3 in Lone Wanderer. This perk is bugged. You can see it's 3-star down here. There's only 3 levels in this. This is a very strange one that always seems to pop up saying it's level 4. Now, this is going to give you less damage as you move around Appalachia, but it's also going to make your AP regenerate. Very good perk for playing alone. Then we have First Aid, which gives you 45% more health back when you use stim packs. Again, not the most important perk, but definitely one that you could use. Then we have Action Boy, and your action points regenerate 15% faster, and Evasive, which adds damage resistance and energy resistance when you have free agility points, and each additional agility point adds, each additional free agility points adds more damage resistance. Last but not least, you have Scrounger, which allows you to find more ammo in containers, and Serendipity, which when you're below 30% health, you gain a 45% chance to avoid damage. Now, what I'd say about this build is it's pretty solid. There's not a lot of perks in here that I would say are useless. I'd say long term, Rejuvenated is pointless. It will lose its need. Lone Wanderer, very good perk if you're playing alone, but if you're playing a group, absolutely pointless. And then Action Boy and Evasive. Now, Evasive is the least useful perk in this tree, but Action Boy, very good. And then last but not least, Serendipity is kinda useless when you start the game. Unless you're playing a very specific build, it just doesn't really matter. Scrounger will at least help you in the beginning. Next, we'll take a look at Slugger. So, what that's giving you is Martial Artist, which will increase your swing speed by 30%, but reduce weapons by 60%. Very good perk if you're carrying a lot of melee weapons. Slugger, which increases your melee damage with a two-handed weapon by 20%. And then you've also got Traveling Pharmacy. So again, very good set of perks. Now, you have 9 special in Strength, 1 in Perception, 1 in Endurance, 4 in Charisma, 3 in Intelligence, 4 in Agility, and 4 in Luck. Next, in the Perception tree, we have Lockpick, which gives you the chance to unlock +1 doors, essentially. So doors in the game have 0, 1, 2, and 3 potential for difficulty. This will allow you to unlock anything up to level 1, and you can increase that later. Then we've got Rejuvenated again, and Lone Wanderer, as well as First Aid, and we've also got Evasive and Action Boy in here. And in the last slot, we've got Can Do, which gives you a chance to find extra canned food in containers, and once again, Serendipity. Now, in terms of what's on this build, all the things I said about the previous one apply. The only things that really matter here are your melee stuff, and realistically all the perks that were good in the previous build are good on this one. Next, let's look at Gunslinger. Now, the perks in here, again, are pretty much mostly the same, but we'll talk about the ones that are specifically different. And in the special stats, we've got 3 Strength, 4 Perception, 1 Endurance, 4 Charisma, 3 Intelligence, 7 Agility, and 4 Luck. Now, the perks that are different and unique to this build in comparison to the other ones is Crack Shot, which all pistols have 30% more range and more accuracy when aiming down sights, which is very good for using pistols. Then we have Modern Renegade, which pistols hit fire is increased by 40% accuracy, and you have a chance to cripple a limb by 12%. Then we have the Gunslinger, which gives us 20% damage. Now, this perk, Concentrated Fire, in tandem with Modern Renegade, allows you to target specific limbs, and with each shot, that limb can be basically disabled at a 12% rate. This is really good early game because you can cripple a target's legs or their arms, and this will stop them from either being able to move properly or aim properly. So this is actually really good early game. On top of that, you can also shoot them in the head and cripple that, which again reduces their ability to aim properly. So this is a really good combo for an early game build. So yeah, I actually quite like this. But at the same time, it's not as powerful as the other two. Once again, we will go over what's different in this build rather than focus on anything specific, but we have 7 Strength, 3 Perception, 1 Endurance, 4 Charisma, 3 Intelligence, 4 Agility, and 4 Luck. Now, in the slots here, you've got Shotgunner, which gives you 20% damage to shotguns, and Scatter Shot, which shotguns now weigh 90% less and reload 30% faster. In Perception, we have Skeet Shooter. Now, this basically causes our shotgun spread to narrow, so it basically means if you aim this at someone's head, all the pellets are likely to hit someone's head. So it's a very good perk for shotguns because it ensures the maximum amount of damage on the target. Then, in the rest of this, it's pretty much all the same perks that you've seen on the other builds. Again, pretty solid, very good early game because this will allow you to one-shot quite a lot of early game enemies. Very interesting way to start, but as I said earlier, endgame shotguns aren't very good. And the last of these builds, Specialist, which is a Vats specific one. Now, on here, again, we'll go over the specifics that are different, but essentially this has 3 Strength, 5 Perception, 1 Endurance, 4 Charisma, 3 Intelligence, 4 Agility, and 6 Luck. Now, in this slot, you have Awareness, which allows you to see the resistances of targets in Vats. I'm gonna be honest, absolutely kind of crappy perk unless you know what you're looking at. I just don't think it's worth having, which is a really odd choice to have on here, but then it depends on the perks they had available. Then in the Luck tree, we have Psychopath. Any kill in Vats has a 15% chance to refill your critical meter. Now, what I'd say about this build is, while all these perks work really well in tandem together, I mean, you've got Action Boy here, which is fantastic for Vats, and you're going to be able to do a lot of damage with it. Psychopath, which is going to fill your critical meter, and you're going to be able to get those crit shots, and you're going to do big hits. There is nothing particularly special about this build. It's pretty much the same perks as everything has, but you do have the advantage of a level 3 Action Boy, which is possibly the best thing that this has. This is going to regenerate your AP so quickly in the beginning of the game. This is a fantastic perk to have. So if you're wanting to use a lot of Vats, it definitely does work, but you could use some of the perks from the Gunslinger build, like the one that cripples limbs, and add it onto this when you level up a little bit, because that would work really well in tandem with these perks. But at the same time, it's just kind of what I expected from a Vats build. Now, there are lots of different choices here, and ultimately it's all personal preference, but if I was to pick one that I would go for, I would probably go for the Slugger option. And the reason for that being is that the perks on here are pretty good, but at the same time, the best thing about melee is that it requires no ammo. You kill most enemies early game with 2 to 3 hits, and you have no setup you need. You don't need to find new weapons, just find a decent melee weapon and you'll do well. This is the advantage of melee. It is just very strong for less effort than on the part of other builds to start off with. And endgame, it is very, very usable. On top of that, there is also a reason based on the special stats. This high strength stat is incredibly useful early on, and then what you're best doing after you've pumped numbers into strength is then pumping it into intelligence. While this isn't the best intelligence stat, it is still going to help out later game. Now, on the flip side, if you were to pick the Fresh Dweller option, there are several card options here, and you'll notice that pretty much all of them you saw in the other section. Slugger gives you 2-handed damage, Action Dweller gives you 15% action point regen, Gunslinger gives you pistol damage, and First Aid gives you stim pack healing. But we have Inspirational. Now, this perk gives you 5% more XP when you're on a team, and is possibly one of the best perks to early start off with. I would heavily recommend, if you decide to go that way around, that you pick this perk card, because this will allow you to unlock the rest of these quicker. So go for Inspirational, level it up, get it to max, and then you'll be absolutely flying through your levels in the beginning. Now, as you can see, we've left the vault and we have picked our build, and we went for the Slugger build. Now, there's a couple of reasons I picked this build, but we'll go over what each of the special stats does, because that'll tell you why I picked it. Now, the first off is Strength. Each level in Strength gives you melee damage, but the most important thing is it gives you carry weight. You get 10 carry weight per each special in Strength, which gives me 90 extra carry weight. Early game, this is incredibly important, because if you don't have Fallout first, you're going to be picking up a load of crap and have not a lot of place to put it. You do have your storage box, but there isn't a lot there. Then we have Perception. Now, Perception is all revolving around accuracy. It helps your pistols, your heavy weapons, your any range weapon get more accuracy and hit things in Vats easier. It also allows you to see enemies on your radar from further away. Then we have Endurance. This increases resistances to disease and such. It also increases your health. So the more endurance that you have, the tankier you will be. Endurance is an important stat, but at the same time, it's one of those ones that depends on what build you're running. Then we have Charisma. Now, this increases or decreases the cost of items. If you have high Charisma and are selling an item, you get more money for it. If you're high Charisma and you're buying an item, you spend less caps on it. Intelligence is possibly the most important one out of all the ones here, especially early game, and that is because it increases the XP you get with each level in it. If you want maximum XP, max out your intelligence. The only downside is intelligence perks have a niche. There isn't a lot of good perks in there that synergize with a lot of builds. It depends on what you're using, and if you're using certain perks and certain weapons and certain weapon types, then this can be a very good thing to have a lot of intelligence in, but overall it's actually one of the weaker trees on the entire perk board, unfortunately. But having high intelligence does give you a lot of XP, so it is good to have that early on, and as I've said before, you can change your build later on, so it isn't set in stone. Then we have Agility. Now, Agility evolves around action point regen. The more agility you have, the quicker your action points will regenerate. So this is a very good one if you're intending to rely on Vats, and more often than not, you'll find people with a lot of perks in Agility. Agility is some of the best perks in the game, and I would heavily recommend that you invest some points in here. But again, you don't need to do it early on. You can wait until you're at least level 50 and then fiddle around with it there. Now, luck is another very good skill tree, and the problem with the perk cards in this section, I've got the same issue with agility. There's too many good ones. What luck, however, does is it increases your chances to find items in your random boxes as you go around Appalachia. You're more likely to find more things and specific things, you know, good things. And on top of that, it increases your crit damage and the effectivity of your crits and Vats. So essentially, if you want to go Vats, you typically would want to have a lot of luck, a lot of agility, and a lot of perception, because that will maximize the amount of damage you can do and the amount of shots you can take in it. If you want to be melee, ideally you're going to want to have a lot of strength and endurance, and potentially, well, definitely agility and luck, because that's going to increase your damage in general. But if you're wanting to go around and spend a lot of caps at different places, then maybe charisma is the way for you. Either way, each of these effects are different on the way how you react with the wasteland, and the reality is there are skill checks involving certain of these stats, but realistically at the start of the game it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Whatever you pick and whatever you put your points into, you can change later on, so don't put too much thought into it. Typically what I would do to level up as quickly as possible is pump it all into strength and intelligence and level quickly. You know, wailing on things with my baseball bat or whatever weapon it's given me. There is no right or wrong answer, but definitely pumping intelligence and strength will allow you to get a really good early start in the game. Now, the first place I would head would be the Overseer's Camp, which is located just here from Vault 76. The reason for that is it has a very important plan here, the small backpack plan. Now, this plan is important because this backpack gives you a bunch of carry weight. Now, when you start the game with the method we've already discussed, you actually have this backpack already. But if you were to accidentally drop it or lose it, you will lose this carry weight. And on top of that, the one that you're currently using isn't the max level. Once it is max level, it will have 30 base carry weight on it. So you want to craft a newer one when you get the chance. And in the note of backpacks, we do have a video detailing how you can get a better backpack later on in the game. I'll leave the link down in the description. Now, the next place I would head would be the Wayward, and what I would say about leveling up in Appalachia and in Fallout 76, questing is the best way to go. You will, early game, need to go through a lot of different quests and a lot of different things in order to basically level up and unlock different things. For example, the Wayward questline will unlock your sequence of events going into the Raiders and the Settler choice later on in the game, which will unlock gold bullion. And gold bullion is a very important currency because it allows you to unlock different things in the game, different plans, and get access to end-game weapons and gear. On top of this, there is also other quests involving, for example, the Enclave or just the Scorch Beasts. This will allow you to unlock nukes, which allow you to get access to high tier events and to certain gear and certain things throughout the game. Overall, you're going to want to quest. So any quest markers you have early game, I would recommend you follow them and explore Appalachia. Now, when it comes to Fallout 76, one of the best and easiest methods to level up and just experience the wasteland is to go around and wail on anything you find. This will get you XP, and on top of that, the enemies will drop different weapons, ammunition, different items, that kind of thing. There is also the chance that you'll find special enemies known as legendaries. Now, these have specific stars attached to their names, and these drop legendary items which have special effects. Now, when it comes to these items, there are a lot of them, and they do a lot of different things. We're not going to go into that in this video because it's not that important to start as a beginner, and when you get further in the game, you'll be able to figure it out. But as you can see, we've got a legendary cultist high priest here, so we're going to wail on him, and when he dies, he drops an item, which he's dropped a mutant's rolling pin, which actually, for a low level character, isn't great, but it's there and it will help us long term. So something you need to watch out for in Appalachia is your carry weight. Essentially, you only have a limited amount of space in your storage, and on top of that, when you go to your storage box, your stash, you only have a limited amount of space in there. So you don't want to be picking up stuff that you don't need. And the reality is, if you have too much stuff in your inventory, it can be problematic. Now, if you have Fallout First, you can scrap items that you find in Appalachia, and there is a special scrap box that you can get that you can dump things into. But if you don't have Fallout First, then you don't have that scrap box, which means you have limited storage space to put scrap into. So for example, here I put the scrap box, the stuff into my main box, but if I had Fallout First, I would put it into a scrap box, which has unlimited storage. So this is the real problem with playing the game just on the base. If you don't have Fallout First, you have very limited storage space, and yeah, you need to watch what you're picking up, and you're not picking up too many random things. Now, another important thing to do is public events. Now, as you can see, we've got 2 people here. One of them is me, and this event involves me shooting or hitting the Strangler Heart here. And what you do is you wail on this big plant, and then eventually what's going to happen is we are going to get a bunch of ad spawns that are going to try and stop us from defeating the Strangler Heart. Now, these enemies are higher level than me, but as you can see, with other players here, you just need to tag them and you're going to get XP that way. On top of that, for completing the event, you get an XP chunk, which is also going to help out. And this is the thing, going to do public events, you can travel for them completely free. It gets you new travel locations and gets you potentially items, legendaries, all manner of different things. And you're doing minimal cost for it. You're just getting XP out of it. So it is a very good way to do things. However, do be careful, because in certain instances, you do get bigger, more dangerous enemies like this Strangler Queen, which I'm going to run from because she is definitely going to kick my ass. I am not capable of fighting a queen at my current level. But I can kite it and allow these guys, well, this guy, and to basically kill what's there, and then we can wail on the lower level enemies. But you can see, because everything kind of not quite sinks down to my level, but goes down to a lower level because of me, we're able to, you know, get a bit more hits in and do a bit more than we would if we were slightly higher level but with the same build. You just need to be really careful to make sure you don't get your ass kicked. But once this thing dies, we're going to get a chunk of XP. Right, that's the big gal down, and we have our XP, and you can see she drops some decent crap. But then we can finish off the Strangler Heart by attacking that there. And then you'll see that we'll get a big chunk of XP for the completion of the event, as well as some items. And this is the kind of point of doing events, is that you get something out of it. You know, you're getting different kind of things. On top of this, we were getting legendary cores and whatnot. It's just something that you should be doing actively. If you see the public events pop, go ahead and go over and do them, and then you get some rewards out of it in the form of treasury notes, legendary cores, plans, and a bunch of other stuff. So, when we're talking about public events, there are a couple of events I would recommend you go to as a low level, and one of them is Moonshine Jamboree, the other is Radiation Rumble, and Feed the People. Now, Radiation Rumble and Moonshine Jamboree have the same kind of idea. They are a high mob density, fast-paced event where you basically kill a load of enemies as they appear and get XP from them, and it's just a lot of XP in quite a short period of time. As you can see, our XP is flying up there. Make sure you're on a team when you go to this event, because there is lots of things to shoot and lots of things to do. Now, the reason I would recommend you do the event Feed the People is for a different reason. Feed the People, once you complete it, will drop an item that will give you a bonus to your XP for an hour. And this is, I'm sure I've got some on this character. I think it's Canned Meat Stew. Let's see, let's scroll up. Yes, Canned Meat Stew. So you're seeing 5% XP for an hour. So if we pop that, I now have an extra 5% XP. And that's the main reason you want to do the Feed the People event. But there's lots of different events like this that have a lot of different mobs and a lot of things for you to kill. And I would just heavily recommend that you take part in these events and absolutely devastate the wasteland, because you'll fly up in XP as it goes. Now, another important thing for leveling up in XP is teams. Now, you can create your own team, and they have different abilities that have there. This one boosts Expedition XP, this one boosts Charisma, this one boosts the Event XP, this one boosts Endurance, this one boosts Intelligence, which in general boosts XP just in general, and the last one boosts XP in daily ops. Now, the more teammates you have, the more bonuses you get, but the general one that you're going to use most of the time is casual, because that boosts your intelligence, so it boosts your general XP. But depending on what you're specifically doing, you can tailor that and change it around. Another location I would recommend you unlock is the White Spring Resort. Now, the reason for this is there are a bunch of quests inside that involve the responders. Now, these quests will allow you to unlock the Expedition tab that's here, which in turn is going to give you the best early start in XP. So head inside and complete the quests. Or, if you have a friend or high level, you can join someone else's expeditions. This is something you can do as you see expedition teams pop up throughout the game, is join their expeditions, which then you can use to get XP. Now, I'm just going to show you, we're nearly level 21 in here, and what we're going to do is we are going to go and fight the enemies that are in here. Now, these are the Overgrown, and these are an enemy type that's in here, but you're seeing their level is tailored to me, and if I was on my main character, their level would be maxed. And this is the thing about it, is that the enemies in the expeditions tailor to your level. So you can, in theory, solo this as a lower level. There's nothing stopping you from doing expeditions at a lower level. And the great thing about it is the XP is quite significant, especially if you're in a team, and especially if you're in an expedition team. And even then, if you were to just go in and leech off your friends, you will come out of this with quite a lot of levels. And this is the XP we're ending this on. But what I'm going to do is put this all AFK and finish it with my main and show you how many levels we get from it. Now, yet again, you can see my main has barely taken part in this whole thing. Our XP is pretty much where it was, where we left it. Now, when we go into the ending screen, what we're going to do is get a bunch of different rewards as well as XP. And you can see on that bottom left-hand side of the screen, it just flashed up there quickly, we'd went up by several levels. We are now level 24, and we're also getting a bunch of legendary items from this, as well as ammo, stim packs, and stamps, which is currency. You can see, look at the amount of XP we got. Look at that. Just look at it. And we don't have any XP buffs, nothing else on. We are just getting that as well. And you'll see in a couple of seconds that we have got to level, I think it was 25 it said. So we got 4 levels for doing very little, and that's, yeah, level 25. You can see it down here in the bottom right hand side of the loading screen. You managed to get 4 levels for doing not a lot, having no XP buffs, and for not taking part in it. If I was running around attacking things during that event, I would have probably got to level 26 or 27. Expeditions are very, very good for XP, very good for items, and just very good in general. Now, since we got some legendary items, I'd be remiss to not speak about them. And when it comes to legendary items, they can drop whether they're 1, 2, or 3 star. And each different star gives them a different effect. So, for example, this is a Ghoul Slayer Ski Sword, which gives damage to ghouls, action points back with each kill, and less action point cost. Now, when it comes to early game, use whatever you get dropped. Literally use whatever gets dropped, because the best weapon for you is the best weapon you currently have. Don't worry about what is optimized, what is the best thing that you can have. Just go for the best weapon. As you can see, this has got 2 different effects, and there's lots and lots of different effects, and it doesn't really matter what you go for. It doesn't really matter what you use in the beginning, because realistically, what your best weapon currently is the important one. Now, you remember earlier I said that you don't want to carry too much stuff around. Your carry weight will get too high, and eventually you'll have nowhere to put things. Well, there is a solution to that in the form of legendary weapons, because typically I wouldn't recommend you sell them. Instead, bring them to this machine. Now, this one is currently located at the White Springs Resort in the basement area, but you can find them at various places, such as any train stations in the game, as well as a location called the Rusty Pick, which is right about here where you see this sign is. These machines trade legendary weapons in, so I can chuck these in here and we will get script corresponding to the number of stars that they have. And you can get up to 500 script per day from this machine. It resets at around 6 o'clock my time, but this will give you script, and this can be traded in for a variety of different things over at Murg's Rusty Pick, but I'm not going into that in this video. That is a whole other different video to go into. But script is very important for endgame stuff and for getting better and better gear, so gathering script early is a good idea. However, you do have a cap on the amount of script you can hold at any one time, so make sure that you're heading over to Murg's Rusty Pick and trading it in frequently enough that you're not getting capped. Now let's assume at this point you are leveled up to the level you want to be, and you are trying to build a proper build. Now every 50 levels that you get, you will unlock a perk card slot in the legendary perk section. Now there is a lot of different perks here, they all have different effects. I'm not going to go through all of them, but essentially they are very important and they have very specific things to your build. But what I would say about them is they are the only significant permanent change to your character. Now when it comes to these perk cards, if you click on them, you can level them up with perk coins. Each card levels up with 50 perk coins to start with, then 100, then 150. Now, these perk coins, while easy enough to get, are the only real permanent change to your character. And how you get them is by going to certain perks in your cards and then scrapping them. So for example, I scrap Adamantine Skeleton and we get 2 perk coins for it. The higher the level of the perk, the higher the amount of cards you get, well, coins you get. And the problem with this being is if I were to put these coins into this perk, it will permanently level that perk up. There is a finite amount of these that I can have at any one time based on how many perks I have and how many spare cards I have. So make sure that you're scrapping cards with the knowledge that once you scrap it, it is gone for good. Do not scrap cards before level 50. That is my first rule I would say to you. Do not scrap cards before you're level 50. And when you scrap cards, make sure that you're scrapping the cards that you want rid of. You're not scrapping something that you need for your build or want to use. Because when you add these in here, it is permanent. So for example, taking one for the team. Enemies take 40% more damage when they attack you if you're on a team. If I was literally a stealth build, this is almost no use to me because enemies should not be attacking me. So you have to think about what you want to use very carefully when it comes to legendary perk cards. Don't play with them willy-nilly. Don't put points into something you're not going to use. Put points into things that you will use and only scrap perk cards that you won't use. Now the last thing I kind of want to cover is mutations. As you travel through Appalachia and get radiation, you'll develop mutations. These have very, very specific effects that do crazy, crazy things and can impact how your character performs quite significantly. Now, before you get certain perks, these come and go, so don't worry about them too much. But later on in the game, you can make them semi-permanent. And the way you do that is through 2 major perks. There is Class Freak, which reduces the negative effects of your mutations, and then there is Starch Genes. You will never mutate from rads, and Radaway will never cure mutations. These 2 perks are very, very important later on in game, and I would recommend that you get them because they will change how your character performs quite significantly. Now, mutations I'll go into in a different video. It's too long-winded and there's too much information about it, but until you get at least Starch Genes, don't worry too much about mutations, but they do have a massive impact on your character. So let's summarize what we are saying here. Essentially, strength and intelligence are the two most special stats to begin with, because strength gives you carry weight, intelligence gives you XP. When it comes to questing and doing things, we would recommend you do the main missions because they unlock a lot of end-game rewards, as well as doing events because you will get items from them and you will get legendary items from them. You also get a bunch of XP, as well as expeditions, which will then give you a huge amount of XP and level you up very quickly, as well as give you a bunch of different legendary items. On top of this, make sure you are in a team. If you're not in a team, that is going to cause problems for you long term, because being in a team is better than not being in a team. Then, when it comes to your perk cards and things like that, don't scrap them until you're level 50. Make sure you are spending only what is necessary on the legendary perk cards that you want specifically. Other than that, you know, the perk cards you unlock, the perk cards you have, aren't too important because you're never too far away from, you know, ungimping your build. And then when it comes to mutations, they are important end game, but they don't matter until you can get starch genes, which will make them permanent, and you can apply them using serums. But again, that is another video. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. If there's stuff that I covered in this video you'd like me to go over in more depth and more detail, I would heavily recommend you leave a comment down below, as well as liking and subscribing, and we'll catch you all next time in the wasteland.
Through the dark, moonlight's dimly shedding, a shadow creeping. Feel your hearts entwining, a twisting mind, seeking prey to devour. In the dead of the night, he gains more power. His bloodshot eyes, the fire burning within, a predator lurking ready to commit his sin. He moves in silence, you can't hear a sound, chasing shadows, hunting till you're found. Chasing shadows, he's the hunter